We get one life to live, so we might as well try to do all of the exciting things to make ourselves happy. I've actually had clients who have said, doesn't everyone hate their job? Shouldn't I just suck it up and wait until the perfect time? And it's such a sad question to ask. And I think there are people who hate their job for sure, but why should you be one of them? I would just say to everyone listening, and for both of us to know for ourselves too, is that it's okay to give ourselves grace and just sometimes just take a step back and just make sure that you check in with yourself and make sure that you are happy and that you're living your best life. And if you're not feeling that way, then it's okay to look into making a change.
Welcome to the Wheel With It podcast with your host, Devon. Let's get into the episode.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Wheel With It. My name is Devon Wieters, and today on the podcast we have Shannon Russell. Shannon was a delight to talk to. She is a business coach helping women start their own businesses, and she was delightful to talk to. And I really enjoyed talking to her. We have a common love of certain reality TV shows, and she worked in television, so that was fantastic to talk to her about a little bit. But I think you're gonna love Shannon Russell. She was so sweet, and she was one of my favorites. So here's my conversation with Shannon Russell.
Me and their guest just spent, 15 minutes talking about Survivor reality TV. Today we have Shannon Russell. How are you today?
Good,
We're
Devin.
talking about any reality TV today, but so how are you?
I'm good, Devin. So happy to already be chatting with you. I feel like we know each other so well already.
Yes. So tell us about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So, yes, I am a career transition and business coach, and I help women figure out how to change careers if they find themselves unhappy and start a business or a podcast. Any kind of second act is really what I focus on. I went from being a television producer into being a business owner. So, that is my second act.
How exactly do you help women do that?
Yeah, so really start with working on what your skills are. So in any job that you have, we've got skills. So we just make a list of every kind of experience and skills that this person's client might have had in the past, and then think about what they might want to move towards in their second act career. And then we see where the skills align. And sometimes it just helps give people ideas of, wow, I'm really good at this. Maybe I can start a business doing this, or I can start a consulting job on the side, helping people with X, Y, and Z. So yeah, just try to help them figure out what kind of business or career transition they'd want to do. And then I help them in building that business and kind of hold their hand along the way.
So what kind of tips do you give them as far as how do you build a business?
Yeah, first it's a lot of that mindset piece of, oh, I'm leaving this career and that identity that our career and what we do is our identity. And I like to say that we're so much more than what we do, than what we look like, all of that. It's all in who you want to be as a person. So saying, okay, I can change and I can leave what I had been doing and I can start a business. And you think about what you can really bring to the table. So your personality, your experience, your skills, and then you can use that to build a business and market it. So if you were in accounting and you're really good at numbers and you want to build a business, maybe selling jewelry, then you can say, okay, I know how to do the budget around that. I know how to market that. I know how to make sure that I'm spending the right amount of money on my products, but and how much to price them. So you can look at your past experience and use that to help you build a business.
What's your favorite success story from the
Oh, yeah.
business that you have?
I've got a lot, but one that I like to chat about a lot is a woman who came to me a couple of years ago, and she was a full-time teacher, but she had a little boy at home and she really wanted to get out of the classroom. So she started talking about building a business where she could teach her kids or teach kids sensory play. So starting with ages like baby to toddler and preschool, like anything that could help them be very tactile and play in sand and play with rice and just learn how to build. And if a child has special needs, how to calm them with different sensory materials. And she built this really successful business in her community. And then she said, I want to open a center. I want to open like a brick and mortar location where families can come and bring their kids and then also be able to work if they want to and have people take care of the kids. And just this past fall, she opened that brick and mortar location in her community. So it was
That is
excellent.
awesome. I want to talk to that woman. That is awesome.
Yes, I'll introduce you. She's amazing and creating such a nice place for the women and families and kids in our community.
That is so awesome. Like, what's like the structure? Have you been, do you have like consultation and then you do stuff, or what is like the structure?
Yeah, I usually have a free call with the potential clients just to see where their goals are and where they are in the process of leaving their corporate job and starting something else. And then they can choose to work with me. Really, I work more one on one with clients, and they can choose if it's 8 weeks, 6 months, 1 year, and we work together one on one. And they just have constant communication with me, and we really build up their business together. And I'm launching a course as well in the coming months where it's a little accelerator. If you know what business you want to start, you can join, and there's videos and group coaching, and you can get your business off the ground really fast.
That is awesome. And so, like, what separates you from other businesses? Be curious.
Yeah, good question. I think for me, I'm really strategic because I know there's some people out there that say, oh, just pick a date on the calendar and say I quit and figure it out afterwards. And I like to say, and we all might want to do that, right? We've all been there. But I want to say that, especially if you have other responsibilities and people in your family that you're taking care of, and you want to make sure that you can strategically make that change where you're not disrupting your whole family. So I like to really put a plan in place and go step by step to help other people figure it out so they're not just broke and figuring it out while crying at home.
You know, if I am of it. I'm trying to think of what I was gonna. I said, okay.
Take your time.
I don't know what I was gonna say. So, what is your favorite business that you've seen besides that one that we've talked about? What is the most creative one?
Let's see. I think that was very creative in what she built, but there is one that was very recently. This woman is a little bit older. She turned 60 and she got divorced, and she wanted to create something of her own because she felt like she always supported her husband with his business. And she had a lot of health issues and she survived cancer. And so she ate very well, and she had to bake sugar free and cook vegan. And so she wanted to create a cake baking business, and she bakes cakes that are sugar free, gluten free, vegan, all of the things. And she started selling them to restaurants. So not just people, but restaurants are buying her cakes to offer to their customers. And I just feel like she has found her passion and feels really proud about herself. And it shows that you can change and do something different at any age.
That is awesome. And why should like women consider doing this?
I think if you are unhappy with what you're doing and you just want to, and you've had that idea in the back of your head that maybe I should be doing something else, and this career, what I'm doing just doesn't really fulfill me and doesn't light me up. We get one life to live, so we might as well try to do all of the exciting things to make ourselves happy and give ourselves new challenges. Like starting a podcast is a huge challenge that you and I have both done. So it's like cool to just, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like,
The Devon Wieters we were talking about earlier, and I was like, could it be? The answer is very. So
and it's a lot to learn, but then you come on the other side of it and you're so proud of what you built.
yeah.
And I think that's where, if there's any woman out there that just feels like they don't have that passion or they just don't feel alive in what they do every day, they can think out of the 9 to 5 and create something else that might make them a little bit happier and more excited to get out of bed every day.
Yes. And so, and I cannot believe I didn't think of this question myself, but why do women struggle with making a change?
I always say it's because we put everybody else in front of us all the time, and we always want to take care of everyone else. I think that's just our nature. And so we always put ourselves last, and we don't think that it's important. I've actually had clients who have said, doesn't everyone hate their job? Shouldn't I just suck it up and wait until the perfect time? And it's such a sad question to ask. And I think there are people who hate their job for sure, but why should you be one of them? So if you can
You,
find a way,
you don't
right?
have to
Hate your job.
It's not like a law that you must hate your job. I'm like, why would you be miserable when you have the opportunity to not be miserable?
Exactly. And I know we all have to earn money. So I guess that's what I really focus on is how can you maybe leave this job that makes you miserable and start building something else in a way that you're going to see that success and not feel so overwhelmed making that change.
Yeah, and it's like I said, there's no law that you have to be like that. There's no law that you have to be invisible at your job.
Oh,
And
no.
what have you learned from your own business journey?
Good. Yeah. Great question. I've learned that I
It's
can
on your
do.
podcast, so I'm
Oh,
putting-
I'm giving you credit, Devin. But yeah, I think it's just that I can do hard things and that we all can. And the fact that our career, or I should say, our identity is not tied to our career. So I was able to leave my career in television and open a business and find success with that. And that just is an accomplishment for me. I think it just shows that you can do with hard things and that now I want to do other things. I just wrote a book and I have other goals that I want to achieve. And that's important for all of us to have those goals because that just keeps us working harder and wanting to learn more.
tell us about your book and your podcast. Where can people get those? What are they about?
Yes, thank you. So the book is called Start Your Second Act: How to Change Jobs, Start a Business, and Create Your Best Life. So it's really about my career transition and a bunch of other success stories of people who have pivoted in their career and just a lot of what I coach. So I want it to be like a resource for people to get that inspiration they need to try something new, whether it's a new job, a business, a podcast, a book, anything. And that's at startyoursecond.com. And then my
Okay.
podcast, yeah. And my
We
podcast
put
is
all the
Second
links
Act.
in the show notes. So
Thank you so much, Devin. Yeah, and the podcast is called Second Act Success. So I just talk about people who have changed from one act to another and started something new in their life or their career.
who's been your favorite guest on the podcast and why?
That is a great question. I do have a woman that I interviewed 3 years ago. She was one of my first guests, but I talk about her a lot. She had a 2-hour commute. She worked in fashion in New York City. I know, but she had a 2-hour commute each way, but she wanted to start a business and she had to take a course, a training course. And she used her 2-hour commute to study and to learn and to take this class and get her certification. And after I forget how long it was, a year or so, she was able to build her business. And I just find that inspiring that she used that time instead of just scrolling on her phone. She had a goal and she studied and she put the work in. And now she runs her own business in her hometown with no commute. So I just love that story.
That is amazing. And if I had a 2-hour commute, I would be ready to get out of bed to like
Right.
out of bed.
Me either. Luckily, she wasn't driving. She was on a train. So she could use that time to make the most of it. So yeah, that's
Okay. No, I feel like an hour and a half.
no, I'm with you.
Tell us about the benefits of you starting your own business. What have you been able to do that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise?
Oh, yeah. The main thing is I have 2 little boys. They're not super little. They're 10 and 13, but they're still little to me. And I'm able to be with them. I've been able to like be there while they have grown up so far, and I'm really present. And I think running my own schedule and having my own clients that I can work with, that I'm able to close down the computer and hang out with the kids and do things like that after school. And I wouldn't have been able to do that working in television. I worked really long hours and traveled. And I remember with my first son, I missed his first birthday. I missed the first Halloween. And I just didn't want that anymore. But by going into business for myself, I was able to get that quality of life in and be able to be present as a mom, which was my number one goal.
Yeah, because I didn't understand like how. Of course, do you listen to the On Fire podcast with Jeff? Probst?
No, I don't, but I know of it.
You need to because that man, I don't even know how he does it. 60-something. Like, that makes
Never home.
no. His poor wife must be like, I'm ready for you to retire from this. Yeah, because the amount of hours that go into one episode, it's just
And he's like the producer, so he's probably has his hand in stuff.
he's in charge of it all. And like, luckily he's got a extremely outstanding staff that there's nothing that they can't handle, like extremely outstanding producers and all. But
Wow.
still, I'm like,
Wow. Does he have kids, Devin?
yeah, and he has two from a previous marriage. His wife was married before she married him and had 2 kids. But he raised them as his own.
That's great. But yeah, he's away a lot, I'm sure.
He's not as much as they used to, because I think they have a better filming schedule with the 26 days and doing them back to back.
Oh,
As
yeah.
they used to one, wait 3 weeks and then do another one. And now it's like when one leaves, the other one comes in.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, that's better time-wise. Condense it all.
Yeah. So I'm like, people are complaining about it not being 39 days anymore. I'm like, if it keeps it on the air, then okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we want. We just want the content. We just want to watch and cheer them on.
But yeah, and I'm sure that his wife was like, yeah,
I wonder if his family goes with him. Do you think they're on a lift?
Yeah. He talked about them coming out once in a while. His kids are college age now, which just blows my mind because I've been watching him since I was 8 years old. So you hear him say, we just dropped our daughter off at college. I'm like, oh my gosh.
How crazy.
But he doesn't talk about his kids much, but on the podcast, he's talked about them coming out when they were little and how he was like playing around on the ATVs with their cousins, and it was great. It was cute.
That is so cute. Now they can tell their college friends that their dad is some island somewhere doing Survivor.
He's probably just someone dad did that low.
Yeah,
Being a baby or something.
exactly.
Yeah. But quick, back to the conversation. That was a nice little
Yes.
So what advice do you give about when people start to sell their products? Like, how much of their story should they tell or not tell?
I think when they're starting, they should really do their market research, like really start to. That's why I think starting something on the side is often a really great idea, to try to see what your customers want and how much you should charge and what they want and what their feedback is on the products or services that you're offering. And then you can build it from there. And yeah, so I think that's something to really think about. And then think about how much work and time you want to put into the business too, because if you offer so many different services, you might be working a lot more than if you just offer a couple. So you want to think about, when you're switching to a business, really how much time you want to dedicate to that, because it's going to be, you're going to think about it 24/7, but maybe you only want to work a few hours a day on it. So you want to build the kind of business that you want for your second act.
That is amazing. And that is side of amazing advice, because I went into this with no business plan, no nothing. I just hit record and I was like, probably should have done a little more research, but I'm ADD. I like to learn as I go.
And you did. You've had
I
this podcast for
did.
so long. It's amazing.
But we only have 14 listeners, but I wish we had a few more listeners, but I did. So
You did it. Exactly. That is all that matters. And the right audience will find you. And yeah, I truly believe that. You're where you need to be.
thank you. Anything else that you would like to add before we get off here?
I would just say to everyone listening, and for both of us to know for ourselves too, is that it's okay to give ourselves grace and just sometimes just take a step back and just make sure that you check in with yourself and make sure that you are happy and that you're living your best life. And if you're not feeling that way, then it's okay to look into making a change.
Yes, that is awesome advice. Where can people keep up with you on social media?
Oh, yeah. I'm on LinkedIn a lot at Shannon Russell Career Coach. And then I'm on Instagram and everything else at Second Act Success.
Okay. And we will have all those links in the show notes. And we will see you guys next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
So I really love that conversation. I hope you did too. Again, we will have all Shannon's links in the show notes, and we will have all my links in the show notes too. So be sure to follow both of us on social media, and we will see you guys next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to follow the show and our guests on social media and subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell so you'll get notified when we upload new episodes. See you next time.